Welcome, everybody, to the Old Gold Show with his always. I'm co-manager over at Hammer and Rails, Andrew Ledman.
And I'm Casey Bartley over at Boiler Upload on Rivals Network.
And we're here with you to talk more Purdue basketball. Purdue had a game against Morehead State this weekend. Both myself and Casey were in attendance live. Casey covering it. I just, as a fan, didn't want to take the press pass, wanted to be able to yell. As you can tell by my voice, did a lot of yelling this weekend. So we're going to cover the game, see what went well, what went wrong. But Casey, I see you holding back laughter. Go ahead. Hit me with it.
It just seems like you have neon cactus throat.
So
Harry's voice.
So came back with my buddy Matt, who went to college together. He was the best man in my wedding. I was the best man in his wedding. So we've been at Purdue all weekend. Went out to the Cactus on Thursday. On Friday, then we went to Harry's after lunch. We had Mad Mushroom, we had some Brunos. We did a little bit of everything, and then we went to Brothers. We did Breakfast Club in the morning on Saturday. Went to the football game.
How old are you, Ledman?
Hey,
Breakfast Club.
I'm old enough. You know what the sad thing is? And it's probably a little bit of just how Breakfast Club has changed since I graduated. It seems like everybody starts out at the Cactus now and then makes their way up to, Brothers or where else. But
geographically, that makes a lot of sense, Ledman.
It does. But I was like, I don't want to go back down to the Cactus. We were there on Thursday. So we just started at Brothers. We were the first there.
At what time are you at Brothers?
We show up, they open it was like 7:05 a.m.
You made some light.
And we were the first people there. And I mean, we were there, and then it eventually, started to fill up, but we stayed there until like 1. And then I went to get some food and then made it to the game on time. I want to point out.
I'm both impressed and disappointed in you. I'm happy that you get to play Bachelor again.
Honestly, I think those are the right mix of emotions. I think those are how you should feel. And with Bruce retiring at the Cactus, Matt and I spent a lot of our Thursday nights at the Cactus. Wanted to have at least one more time we could go, and I'm not spending $300 or $500 or whatever it is for that last show. So had to go before that.
Shout out to Bruce.
Yeah.
I don't think Purdue fans are going to be mad because apparently you brought all the good mojo to town.
That's right. It was the first Purdue basketball game and football game I've been at home in attendance, and Purdue 2-2 on the weekend when I was in attendance, and that was just Purdue's third football win. So, but we're not here to talk football. We're here to talk Purdue versus Morehead State, and honestly, first half did not look great for Purdue. Second half was much better. Casey, before we get into specifics, what do you think the difference was between that first half and that second half when Purdue really took off?
Well, I think a little bit is just, if you look at the schedule, it's really easy. It doesn't matter who's on your schedule for the first game of the season. You're going to get up for that game.
Yeah.
You're excited. First time Mackey's being filled, all that good stuff. And you have an Xavier game next Monday, tomorrow now at this point.
Yeah.
If you're going to look at a game where energy might not be all the way up, that would be the game.
Yeah, so it's a trap game, a little bit of a trap game.
Trap game just in the sense that they're not bringing 110%.
Right.
Purdue was definitely not sharp. It was defensively a lot. I think Painter said after the game, they were all right. And I'm going to guess when I talk to him in about 3 hours that all right's going to be they were bad.
Yeah, because by now he's looked at some tape, He's looked at some film, and he's seen the breakdowns. Like when he spoke to us the other day, you can watch a game and think we did okay or we did great, and then you look back at it and you see all the mistakes, you see all the flaws, because there's only so many things you can watch in live action.
Yeah, I don't know if it was a case of Ethan Morton, missed because of illness.
Yeah, he was sick.
It really looked like when the second team came out in the first half, there was not much defensive intensity.
No.
And if you've seen anything from Morton this year, it's been that he had 4 steals in 15 minutes in the first game. And it really felt like, okay, well, the Stardust came out, gave us a 15-0 run to start the game, big lead.
Right.
We can just coast. We're going to run through them.
And it really felt like that because, the lead didn't grow much beyond 15. It might have gotten a little higher, but then they just kept chipping away. They got it to 10. I think it was even 9 at one point. It might have stayed at 10, but Purdue just didn't really look like they were taking it too seriously at that point.
Yeah, and Zach Edey is so good on the floor that you can kind of, even if you're not turned all the way up, if he's out there, he's going to cover for a lot of that.
Yeah.
And then when he goes to the bench and all of a sudden you got some new guys, and Purdue's offense still isn't clicking for me in a way that I think it will by the end of the season. I think there's still some rough stretches. Just finding that balance between feeding Edey down low and being aggressive on the perimeter. I thought they did really well in the second half at that.
Much better.
Lance Jones particularly really looked comfortable for the first time attacking, knowing when to get into the paint, getting to the hoop, making shots. And that first half was just a little lack of focus on the defensive end. The dribble penetration was getting to him. They mixed up a couple of communications on pick and roll. Trey Kaufman-Renn is still not all the way there, guarding the forward, defending, being around where he needs to be. And then they did technically have a stretch five. They played Minix there for a little while.
Yeah.
And Zach
Minix looked good against Purdue. I mean, I know he was an NAIA like all-star or whatever. So he took a big jump up to this next level, but Purdue made him look really good in the second half and then made him look really bad in the second half.
Yeah. And I mean, he's a skilled player, got the shots he wanted. I think being able to recognize that as a team has got to be a little better. Just knowing that he's the dangerous guy, we've got our principles and we've got to stick to him in a way that he can't just go off.
Yeah.
And at the same time, just Edey out in space is not the ideal position for Purdue. Sometimes that's, if you want to look at, like, Painter's just been, I don't understand why we're better against better teams and worse against worse teams.
Right.
Part of that is that because the worst teams kind of just have to go to stuff. Their big man got in foul trouble early. So they have to stretch it out and put Edey in weird positions where what he does best isn't necessarily available to him. So it's a tough thing to do. And then when your energy is not there as well, I thought Braden Smith all night was the energy, especially out on the perimeter defense. And when he wasn't out there, it was just, they let them be a little too comfortable in that first half.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you mentioned one guy that I think we have to talk about specifically, and that's Lance Jones. Mm-hmm. He really, I mean, Purdue over these last 5-6 years has had a history of bringing in a guy, the rent a player, can only be here for 1 year. He's got to come in, gel with the team, and then kind of find his role. And some have been much more successful than others. David Jenkins Jr., obviously last year, I think did a really good job. But I don't think anybody would argue that he was a game changer for kind of who the team was 2 years ago versus who they became in the season he was here. I think Lance Jones is a different type of player than Purdue has on the roster. And I think the way he can play both on the offensive end and on the defensive end is something that Purdue didn't really have on the roster. And you saw him play with a lot of fire and aggressiveness in that second half, especially from three-point land. He had that one from about 4 to 5 feet behind the line where he just pulled up and took it. And it's like, it's a stupid shot. It's a stupid shot. Looked great coming off his hand. I mean, standing in Mackey, I just threw up the three real quick. I was like, oh, he's going to make it. And he did. But it's one of those, Painter will tell you, it's a bad shot. The results don't make it a good shot. So it was still a bad shot, but he made it. And sometimes in college basketball, you need a guy who's not afraid to take that shot, do a little heat check.
Took that shot directly in front of Matt Painter.
Right.
Painter was almost as close to the hoop as he was when he took it.
Yeah.
Not great. I think his ability to run, he's a running mate for Braden Smith, something that David Jenkins wasn't. And his ability, the second basket of the night was just a rebound outlet to Smith. Smith just passed it ahead to Lance Jones, and Jones just beat the team down the Morehead State down the floor. Those weren't buckets that Purdue were getting last year. Same thing to start the second half. Smith pushes, and Jones is with him left, and he gets an open three on the left side. Those easy baskets, just like 3 or 4 of them a game, especially when it gets tough, can really make a big difference. And that's what he brings. And in the second half, he showed more. First half too, a little bit, just getting to the hoop a little more. He had a nice drive and kick out to Heidi when Heidi got fouled on the two-handed dunk down the baseline. And just to have another guy out there that can do that besides Smith is really something Purdue did not have last year.
Yeah, it was kind of a one-man show. So speaking of Heidi, you texted me during the game about how impressed you were with Heidi.
Mhm.
What did you see from him in this game? I mean, only his second real game as a Boilermaker that makes you believe he can not only contribute down the line, but can contribute for this team right now this year.
When you want someone off the bench, you want someone who, like, he puts a lot on the table with his size, his speed, his athleticism, his shooting. He takes nothing off the table. He's a good defender. He's a big body. He gets rebounds. He plays out in transition. Just all those little things, when you can pair that around and throw that out there for fresh legs for 20, 25 minutes a night. And when you do that at that size and you add shooting, it just really makes this team feel so much more dynamic out on the floor.
Yeah.
And there's so much space around Zach Edey that Painter didn't have enough guys last year that could really take advantage of that.
So, I mean, do you think he's going to end up getting 20, 25 minutes a game as we progress? I mean, obviously, in the early days, it's, you know, the leash is a lot longer, the bench is a lot longer. You allow these guys to play to kind of see how they play together in real games. Because as Painter said when we talked to him, you know, real games are different. Right. You're not playing against yourself anymore. So is he somebody who you think is capable of playing 20, 25 minutes when we get into games against teams like Xavier, Arizona, when we go to Hawaii, when we go to the Big Ten?
I'm gonna tell you the same thing Painter tells me every time I ask about his wing stuff. And it's tough, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's tough. There's just not minutes there. The way it works right now is generally it's Heidi and Gillis that come in first. Morton can come in at the same time, keep Braden Smith out there, keep Zach Edey out there. And all of a sudden, I think that lineup doesn't lose much because you keep the two cogs of your offense. Your defense gets probably a little better, and you add in Mason Gillis's shooting. So it's tough to get to 25 minutes because now you're talking 2 6-minute stretches a half, and that's probably not there. But you get them out there for a couple 4-minute runs each side, and you get up towards that 20-minute mark. I think that's where it is. Right now, he's the number one guy off the bench besides the 4 spot, which is just going to change whoever has the hot hand between those three. But I think his versatility and his ability to guard up, I think we'll see it against Xavier because they've got a couple big wings and guards. Just having that size option, especially when you need it, and to not give up rebounding against teams like that. I think that's really is something Painter is going to lean on with him. I think he's already shown as much as you can trust in a redshirt freshman at this stage. Yeah. And I mean, the one thing we did see is Miles Colvin has another gear.
Mm-hmm. He looked good too.
He didn't score in the first half, didn't do much in the second half, barely played until late, and then came in and put up eight points in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
How Painter makes that balance, I don't know. But
yeah, I don't envy that one bit. It's going to be, I think, just based on the number of players fighting for a number of minutes. I mean, we haven't really seen much of Mason Gillis or Caleb First. I mean, they've been in there in stretches, but I don't think they've really had a standout moment or a standout game. Granted, it's only 2 games, but those are the guys who were such integral pieces of the team last year. And right now, I don't want to say they're afterthoughts. I want to say that they're deeper on the rotation than they have been.
I don't think Gillis is. I mean, that Arkansas game when Purdue was trying to win it late, Gillis played the entire final stretch, till overtime. We talk about Painter and who he trusts. Mason Gillis he trusts. And I think those minutes are always going to be there for him. He's still a little match. He still doesn't rebound the ball as well as you think he does, because he does give up some size. But the 4 is just going to be a rotating chair between those 3.
Yeah, and that's hard for the players and that's hard for the coaches, because you got to keep everybody happy, but you also, you got to, as much as you want to keep everybody happy, winning the game is your job. So if someone's playing better, they might play, your minutes for that game. That doesn't mean you're not going to play the next one, but for now, I'm trying to win the game in front of me, and I how much thought you put into down the road, that's tomorrow's problem.
Yeah, it will be something that we will talk about all season.
Yeah, and before we move completely off this game, I do want to point out how great of a game Braden Smith had. I mean, I know you highlighted him earlier, but I think there was about 7 or 8 minutes left in that second half. I looked up at the scoreboard. He had 11 points, 11 rebounds, or I'm sorry, 11 points, 11 assists, and 7 rebounds. And I'm like, oh man, he's getting. And then he ended up with 8 rebounds. And I think I heard afterward that he said he wanted to stay in the game to try to get the triple double, but Painter was like, just, eventually they decided that it wasn't going to happen, so they took him out. But he had a great game, and his maturation from last year to this year has just been incredible.
Yeah. It's definitely something that's going to, it's meaningless right now.
Yeah. I mean, the two games we've seen.
Smith popped up like this a lot last time. It's how's he going to handle big guards, teams that are a little longer, because he does still get into tricky spots where he has to he's forced to pass it through windows, and that's difficult for him at his size. But he is absolutely being everything Purdue needs right now. He's most underrated player, maybe the best point guard in the league.
I knew I could tell you were about to say something outrageous, because you paused and you kind of tilted your head. You were like I'm going to say it.
I'm not sure I'm going to war with anyone else besides Braden Smith in the Big Ten.
Well, certainly not anybody from Michigan State the way they've looked lately.
Yeah, Tyson Walker is.
Well, yeah, name another player on Michigan State who you'd like.
Nope, don't want to.
Yeah, just note the silence there, listener. So anything else about this Morehead State game before we go ahead and take a quick break?
Nope.
Okay, I got one thing, but it's only for people who've paid attention to the pregame. So, they've got the Boiler Lights app for the game introductions, where they want everybody to download it, hold up their phone, and then it uses their camera flash. And if you've watched the games, you're like, man, nobody in their arena is really using this app, or not many people, especially in the paint crew. It's not as active as it had been in the past. Well, I went to the game, and I don't have that app anymore on my phone, because it's been years since I've been to Mackey. So they have a QR code. You can scan it. So I
did they have cell phones when you were in college?
Yes, they did. Not like these. I had a slider phone. Thank you very much. I think it was a Motorola.
Motorola Z.
Yeah. So downloaded the app, got it in there. However, I have Verizon. You would think a big name carrier should be able to work in Mackey Arena. Hardly anything was working inside Mackey Arena. In fact, tried to open the app, just kept spinning.
Oh.
Wouldn't even let me open it to get to the Boiler Light show part of it. So I couldn't participate. And I would imagine a lot of people in that arena probably had the exact same problem, especially, as I said, Verizon, one of the largest carriers in the country. And if my phone's not working in there, and I've got a, pretty up-to-date iPhone, what chance does anybody else have? So
episode 4 of our new platform, and you want to just go for Verizon. Just get them out of here.
Exactly. You're
get
done.
Verizon out of Mackey Arena.
Or maybe, figure out how to make it work better.
I do believe it's an AT&T campus.
Well, I can't get behind that. I got a good deal on Verizon, so I gotta stick with it. I gotta ride it until they kick me off, I guess. So there you go, folks. That's a little intro to being at Mackey Arena for those that haven't been in a while. But we're gonna take a quick break. We got a little video for you from Field of 68. We'll be right back to talk about what's coming up for Boilermakers. And we are back. So, Casey, We like to do
What
some
up?
provocative questions on the show, just kind of see where we're at, touch base. We've been able to watch a few Big Ten teams play their game so far this season. We know
Shout out
last
James
year,
Madison.
one of the framers of the Constitution, you know, he's beaten Michigan State. He can do it all. We saw Purdue last year win the Big Ten by 3 games. Michigan State and Purdue are considered the heavy favorites to win the league this year. How many games do you think Purdue is going to win the Big Ten by this year? If you think Purdue's going to win the Big Ten, and I assume that you do.
Yeah, I'm not ignoring you. I was just checking the score. Maryland just lost to UAB.
Ooh, the Dragons,
Rutgers
former home of Mike Davis.
Yeah, Rutgers beat Bryan by 9 today.
But just one guy named Brian.
Just one guy. Big Ten not looking great.
No, they've not looked good at all.
My heart says Purdue wins by 5. My head says 4.
Games.
My head says 4.
Listen, I love to gamble as much as the next guy, but 5 games, there's no chance Purdue wins the Big Ten by 5 games. No chance. Absolutely.
Out of the teams in the Big Ten, who threatens Purdue?
I mean, I think
the answer is no one.
Michigan State will, because they're going to put it together. They always do. I mean, Izzo, as much as he annoys us, he is a great basketball coach.
Have you watched their big men play?
I have, and it has not looked good. I'm not saying they're going to beat Purdue. I'm saying they're going to challenge for the Big Ten title, and I certainly think they'll be closer than 5 games.
Well, I'm going to say they didn't beat James Madison already. And
I told you they're going to put it together. They're going to put it together. They're going to get there.
That's fine, but like you're still putting together a sandwich with subpar parts.
Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
It's
5 games is just so much.
I think the normal things that would set back a team that won 3 games are usually you expect player loss.
Right.
Purdue did not experience that.
Not anything of huge consequence, of course. You know, we lost some people, but nobody who you would sit back and go, what are we going to do now?
They're still a young team. But like, there's still a lot of youth. And third of all, you might think that they would have some kind of maybe malaise or just be a little complacent. But they got their asses kicked in the first round of the NCAA tournament.
Move on. Don't talk about it anymore.
Team is going to want to make a statement.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing they're going to lose probably once in a non-conference, whether it be Maui, whether it be Arizona, who looked really good taking down Duke.
Yeah.
They've got a tough schedule. I don't think they're going to walk into the Big Ten feeling, undefeated the same way they did last year. So I think the year before. So that might be another chip. I just think they are going to want to run through the Big Ten.
No, I mean, I think you're right about that. Especially because last year they did there were some games where they just didn't show up. I mean, the Maryland game that you and I were both in attendance at and covering, I mean, the way Maryland just turned it on and just blew the doors off Purdue last year.
We're going to have deeper talks about Big Ten atmosphere. I'm excited to get to Rutgers for the first time this season.
I've not been to the RAC.
Not going to lie, Maryland is like number 1 for opposing teams.
Oh, opposing teams. Yes. They do have a great atmosphere in that building.
IU anger and not quite as dumb. So like very hostile and angry, but like not quite as like homerific, and like it's more like it's like East Coast elitist dumb.
Well, as someone who lives on the East Coast now, and here's a deep cut for you, or hopefully my brother who will listen to this. Back in my day in undergrad, going to the bars, I would rum and Coke was my drink, but you're
painting a picture of yourself. It's
not great, but you got to paint with all the colors, and then you got to step back and see what it looks like. So you get a rum and Coke, the rum in a college bar, not the best rum you'll ever taste in your life. So the trick is get them to put a little grenadine on top. So you turn it into kind of like a rum and cherry Coke. but with the grenadine. So we called that an elitist because I'm too good for a rum and Coke. I'm just a little bit better. So that now I'm on the East Coast and I can go drink an elitist, therefore East Coast elitist. So to bring it back to your point, yeah, Maryland is a really good atmosphere. Their student section is really loud, but they can be mean. Like, I mean, the things they were chanting at like Isaac Haas a few years back, and they just called him ugly all the time. Like it was a little
maybe
much.
he deserved it.
I'm not going to go there. But yeah, it's a very tough atmosphere to play in, but the Purdue just got their doors blown off there last year. So when you take that into account, and Purdue still won by 3 games last year.
Northwestern game?
Yeah. I mean, Purdue, we both agree Purdue will lose some games in the Big Ten this year. Even if we don't think anybody is as good as Purdue, it is very hard. Only 2. For those listening, he's holding up 2 fingers. It's very hard to go through a 20-game conference season and not have a game where you're off and your opponent is on and just nothing seems to go your way. So that is really what gives me pause on going any more than 3 games. You're going 4 games. Well, you said 5 almost, but
almost 5.
You landed on 4. So, I mean,
4 in the tiebreaker.
That to me obviously is a little much better than 5, but I would be absolutely shocked. I don't even know if anyone has won the Big Ten by 5 games ever. I mean, that just seems outrageous. Maybe something to look up and note on our next episode.
We'll do a little prediction pod before the Big Ten. That might have to be it.
Yeah.
Set a new record for separation in the Big
Winning
Ten.
The league. Yeah, that'd be tough.
Can you imagine how many Big Ten teams can you picture not losing 6 or 7 games?
Maybe 3.
Yeah. That's all.
But I mean, so much of the team, so many of the teams right now, they're still figuring themselves out. And that is one thing about a Matt Painter coach team. They almost always come into a season nearly fully formed.
Same thing about James Madison.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone always says
this is their 40th game of the year already.
James Madison, day 1, that's when you don't want to play him,
right?
Because then they're ready to go. Whereas they get tired down the road.
You didn't hear about James Madison later in his life.
No, yeah, didn't become president or do anything important, so I wouldn't even worry about it. You look at the Federalist Papers; he only wrote a few. Right. Hamilton wrote most of the others. So
yeah, there's no Madison. There's no Madison musical.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. I mean, he's in it, but he does a lot of coughing because he was always sick. So, he had the consumption, the old timey diseases. He had a lot of those, was sick a lot. So I don't know. I mean, I don't think you're completely off base by saying 4, but it is just there's going to be games that you just lose for no reason. And you never know. So last question before we get out. Purdue plays on Monday, so tomorrow from when we're filming this. They're playing against Xavier. Should be a pretty good test. Mm-hmm. What do we know about Xavier before going into Mackey on Monday?
Yeah, Xavier has a couple big guards that'll be good tests. Desmond Claude's a 6'6" wing. Giddes Naminka?
I bet that's not right.
That's probably not right. But both those guys will test the wings. Pretty good with the ball in their hands, can shoot. I think it'll be a good early test. Purdue's obviously got Maui right after it.
Yeah. And no games in between.
No games in between. So this will be the last time that we see Purdue before that. I think it'll be interesting to see if every team now is just going to double and triple team Edey before he gets the ball.
Yeah, because I think they are. I mean, I think they are. They have to.
Yeah, if you look at last year's tape, the teams that did well, that almost pulled off the upset or gave their offense fits, that's what they were doing. That's what smaller teams had to do. It's what,
It's why Purdue lost in the tournament.
It is. And it's clear that last year's team was disrupted by it enough on offense. Mm-hmm. And there's been little flashes where Purdue's looked disrupted this year. It's also natural because like every offense you watch is
Right.
going to have bad stretches.
Yeah.
And it's just how much can Purdue minimize that? How much can the guards play off that? Can, Heidi, Colvin, Morton to some extent come in off the bench and take advantage of that? And it'll just be, I think this will be the first test where a team will come in with talent that's it's not the same talent as Purdue. Xavier lost a big piece.
I mean, it's at least on the same level.
But yeah,
I mean,
it is a major program with major talent. And how are they going to scout and play Edie? And how does Purdue respond to that? Because now they're going to see that against, top end D1 athletes. And I think it's going to tell a lot about Purdue.
Yeah. Yeah. As you said, I mean, it's the last test before Purdue goes to play in the Maui Invitational, which is in Honolulu. So it'll really tell us a lot about the team and who they are before the biggest test of the year the following week when we land in Hawaii and go from there. So I'm really looking forward to the game. A late tip-off, 8:30 p.m. For those in the Eastern time zone. So, hey, that is a great tip-off time for me because that means my son is already in bed. That means I don't have to get a DVR going. I don't have to start behind and can't open Twitter during the game. That means I can be right there, ready to go as the game starts. So, if it were up to me, we would have 8:30 tip-offs every evening.
No thanks.
Yeah, I mean, I said if it's up to me, if I'm emperor, that's what I'm doing. It's terrible for everyone else. It's going to be great for me
after the game. I mean,
yeah, that's fine. But I don't care about those people. I'm only talking about me. So there we go, folks. Really excited to see Monday's game. And then we'll come back with you one more time, I believe, before Maui. And then both Casey and myself will be in Maui. We'll see. If maybe we can
beachside old gold show.
Yeah.
On the ocean.
Drink with a little umbrella in there.
Coconuts.
So yeah, coconuts. A lot of fresh coconuts. It'll be great. So until then, folks. Wait, what?
I did the Cancun thing, the whole like everything inclusive drink. I don't drink, but like everything was included except for coconuts. Like an actual coconut had to pay like 300 pesos, maybe.
I don't know how much.
It was like $10 to $15 for a coconut, all inclusive, except for the coconut. The one thing I wanted.
That's weird. Yeah.
They are honestly, everywhere. I don't know everywhere there.
I don't know the worth of a coconut. Like if you told me, hey, Andrew, go to the grocery store and buy a coconut, I would be like, do I need $1? Do I need $20? I just don't know. And I'm not up on my pesos to dollars conversion rate. So I don't know. I don't know how much 300 pesos that you should be. You were just there.
It was like $12. Oof, whatever that was.
Yeah. That's tight. All right, folks. Maybe like I said, one more before Hawaii, and then maybe you'll see Casey and I drinking coconuts on the beach. But